Hello everybody, it's Refresh, and I am here to bring you a battle between two rivals of Ixalan sealed decks versus the Face the Hydra challenge deck from Theros. The sealed decks are a Naya deck here in green and a Grixis deck here in black. And for this set of battles, we will be using the Harvester, which will allow each deck to draw a card and then discard a card each turn, as well as the Warrior, which they can use to give target creature haste until end of turn. We're going to begin on normal difficulty with 3 Hydra heads, and we'll see how they go. Naya has a Mutiny, Emergent Growth, Stone Quarry, Forest, Hardy Veteran, Fanatical Firebrand, and Stormfleet Swashbuckler. It's a little short on lands, but I think it's enough to get started, so we'll go ahead and keep this. Grixis has Mountain, 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 Itali, Island, Mountain, and Stormfleet Aerialist. This may be too many lands, but again, I'm going to hope that we can loot into what we need to get going. So we'll keep this as well. Turn 1, Naya will play the Stone Quarry tapped, and Grixis will play the Island. And then we will pass turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will play the top card, which is grown from the stump. Put exactly 2 cards named Hydra Head onto the battlefield from the Hydra's graveyard. If you can't, reveal cards from the top of the Hydra's library until you reveal a head card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest into Hydra's graveyard. So we can't, there are no cards in the graveyard, so we'll go ahead and reveal cards until we hit a head. That's 1 Hydra Head. So we'll go ahead and put that down and discard Noxious Hydra Breath. And then the Hydra is going to do 4 damage to the players, taking them to 16 apiece. At the end of the turn, we will loot with the Harvester. Naya draws a Thaumatic Compass, which we like, and Grixis draws a Windstrider, which is certainly better than an excess of mountains. So Grixis will discard an extra mountain, and Naya will discard the Mutiny, which is useless in this case. And then we will begin our turn. We'll untap, draw. Naya draws a Forest, Grixis draws a Sea Legs, and then we will go ahead and play a Forest on this side, tapping both to play the Hardy Veteran, and then on this side we'll play a Mountain, and we'll tap both to play the Stormfleet Aerialist. Now there's no point in attacking right now because we can, even if we give one of these creatures haste, they won't be able to take out a Hydra Head. So we will stay where we are and we will pass turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the top card, which is Noxious Hydra Breath. Choose 1. Noxious Hydra Breath deals 5 damage to each player or destroy each tapped non-head creature. We're going to opt to destroy each tapped non-head creature because there are none, and nothing will happen. However, the Hydra will again hit us for 4 and take us all the way down to 12 apiece. Then at the end of the turn, we will use the Harvester again. Naya draws a Forest. Grixis draws a Swaggering Corsair. We will go ahead and discard the Sea Legs because it is not terribly useful in this version of the game. And we will discard the Fanatical Firebrand because a 1/1 is also not especially useful in this version of the game. Now we'll untap, draw. Naya draws a Rekindling Phoenix. Grixis draws an Island. Naya will play a Forest. Grixis will play a Mountain. We're going to attack with the Stormfleet Aerialist and the Hardy Veteran into this Hydra Head and kill it. Now we will gain 2 life apiece to go to 14 each. And then the Hydra will reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are no new heads, so these cards will go into the graveyard. And then on the second main phase, Naya will play a Stormfleet Swashbuckler, and Grixis will play the Swaggering Corsair, and because of the raid ability, it will gain a +1/+1 counter because we attacked with a creature this turn. And then we will pass to the Hydra. The Hydra will play the topmost card, which is Nectangle. If there are 5 more heads on the battlefield, tap 2 of them, and they don't untap during the Hydra's next untap step. Otherwise, reveal the top card of the Hydra's library and the Hydra casts that card. Because there are not 5 or more, we're going to reveal the next card and the Hydra's going to cast that card instead. Unified Lunge. Unified Lunge deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of heads on the battlefield. We're going to take 3 damage from the heads and then another 3 damage because at the end of the turn that's what they do. And we will take 6 damage to go to 8. And at the end of the turn, we will use the Harvester. Naya draws a Jungleborn Pioneer. Grixis draws a Depths of Desire. We'll keep the Depths of Desire because it is an easy way to get rid of a Hydra. And we will discard one of the mountains. And on this side, we will discard probably the Emergent Growth, which is a one-time effect. And then we will untap, draw. Naya draws another Hardy Veteran. Grixis draws a Swamp, and then we will play another forest here, taking us to 3 forests. And we will play the island here, and then it is time to go on the attack. I believe we might be able to take out 3 creatures if we cast 1 first. So what we'll do is, to be efficient, we'll play a Hardy Veteran, and we'll give it haste with the Warrior, and then we'll attack 1 Hydra Head with the Swaggering Corsair, 1 Hydra Head with the Stormfleet Arsonist and the Hardy Veteran, and the last Hydra Head with the Stormfleet Swashbuckler and the Hardy Veteran. That should be able to defeat all 3 of them. All 3 of these Hydra Heads perish, giving each player 6 life apiece, taking us back up to 14. And then we're going to reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new Hydra Heads. We have 1 Hydra Head, 2 Hydra Heads, a Ravenous Brute Head. And so it looks like we are back to having multiple Hydra Heads on the battlefield. And these 3 will go into the graveyard. In the second main phase, Naya will play the Thematic Compass. And then we will pass the turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the top card, which is Distract the Hydra. Each player may sacrifice a creature. Each player who sacrificed a creature this way chooses a head and taps it. Each player who didn't sacrifice a creature loses 3 life. I think right now we are able to lose the life, so we will do so. So we will lose 3 life, and then we'll take 4 more damage to go down to 7 apiece. Then at the end of the turn, we're going to use the Harvester. Naya will draw a Forest, and Grixis will draw a Mutiny. We'll go ahead and discard the useless Mutiny, and on this side we will discard the Forest. Now we'll untap, and then we will draw. Naya draws a Colossal Dreadmaw. Grixis draws a Hornswoggle. Grixis will play their Swamp, and then Naya will play nothing. We'll go ahead and cast the Windstrider for Grixis, and then we will give it haste with the Warrior. And then we're going to attack the Ravenous Brute Head with the Windstrider, and the Swaggering Corsair will attack the Hydra Head with the Hardy Veteran and the Stormfleet Aerialist. And we'll attack the final Hardy Veteran with the Stormfleet Swashbuckler and the Hardy Veteran. That will defeat them all. This will get us 6 life apiece and a card, taking us up to 13. Each player will draw a card. Naya draws a Frilled Deathspitter. Grixis draws an island. Naya will tap 3 mana, tapping this for red to tap the Thematic Compass, and we will go hunting for a mountain. It's the next card. We'll put that in our hand. We have to reveal 6 cards in order to see if there are any new Hydra Heads. There's 1. We have a regular Hydra Head and the Shrieking Titan Head. We will discard all these other cards. Naya will play their mountain, and it will be the Hydra's turn. The Hydra will reveal and play the top card, which is another Hydra Head. At the beginning of the Hydra's end step, the Shrieking Titan Head will cause each player to discard a card. And so Naya will discard the Jungleborn Pioneer. Grixis will discard the Hornswoggle. And then we will use the Harvester at the end of the turn. Naya draws a Raging Swordtooth. Grixis draws a Soul of the Rapids. We will discard the Soul of the Rapids, and we will discard the Frilled Deathspitter. And then we will untap. Then we'll draw. Naya draws a Forest. Grixis draws a Orazca Raptor. We'll play the island. We'll play the forest. And then we'll tap all of Grixis's to play a Tali Primal Storm, and we'll give it haste with the warrior. And then we will attack the Shrieking Titan head with Polyprimal Storm and the Hardy Veteran. We will attack one Hydra head with the Stormfleet Aerialist and the Hardy Veteran, and we'll attack the final Hydra head with a Swaggering Corsair. The Shrieking Titan head perishes, as well as both of the regular Hydra heads, gaining the players 8 life each to go up to 21. Oh, at the end of the last turn, we should have taken 4 damage each to go to 9. We'll gain 8 life apiece to go up to 17, and then we'll each draw a card. Naya will draw a Forest, Grixis will draw a Swaggering Corsair. We'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new Hydra heads. There are no new Hydra heads, so the Rivals of Ixalan sealed decks defeat the Hydra in normal mode, and we'll be right back for Game 2 against a more difficult Hydra. I'm back for Game 2. This will be against a difficult Hydra head, and that means we have 4 Hydra heads on the battlefield. We'll begin with 7 cards, as we usually do. Naya has a Forest, a Luminous Bonds, Emergent Growth, Fanatical Firebrand, Mountain, and Forest. We have 1 threat, and the Fanatical Firebrand isn't much of one. Luminous Bonds and Emergent Growth are both pretty bad against this particular deck, so we're going to go ahead and mulligan. But because this is a multiplayer game, we'll be able to draw up to 7 the first time. Okay, back to 7. We have a Hardy Veteran, Colossal Dreadmaw, Fathomfleet Firebrand, Forest, Mountain, and Stormfleet Swashbuckler. This is a much better opening hand. We will keep this. Grixis has Mountain, Nest Robber, Island, Sun-Colored Raptor, Mutiny, and Marauding Litter. I think this is an acceptable start. Turn 1, Naya will play a Forest, and then we'll pass turn. And Grixis will play a Mountain, and then we'll pass turn to the Hydra. The Hydra will play the topmost card, which is Unified Lunge. Will take X damage, whereas X is equal to the number of heads on the battlefield. That's 4. And then we'll take another 4 damage from the Hydra head at their end step. And so we will take 8 damage to go down to 12. And then at the end of the turn, we're going to use the Harvester. Naya draws a Forest. Grixis draws a Kitesail Corsair. Grixis will discard the Mutiny because it's useless in this particular game. And Naya will discard, oddly enough, will discard the Colossal Dreadmaw because everything else will be more useful earlier on. And then we will untap, draw. Naya draws an Araska Raptor. Grixis draws a Araska Raptor as well. What we'll do is Naya will play a Mountain, and then we'll tap both of these to play a Fathomfleet Firebrand. We'll give it haste with the Warrior. Grixis will play an Island, tap both, and play a Nest Robber. And it also has haste. We'll attack with both into the Hydra head. The Hydra head will perish. Each player will gain 2 life to go up to 14. And then we'll reveal 2 cards to see if there are any new Hydra heads. A Snapping Fang head and a Ravenous Brute head both enter the battlefield. And this is looking pretty grim, but we'll see what happens. We'll go to the Hydra's turn. The Hydra will cast the topmost card, which is a Hydra head. At the beginning of Hydra's end step, the Snapping Fang head deals 1 extra damage, so we are taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage to go to 5 apiece. And then we will use the Harvester at the end of the turn. Naya draws a Raging Sword Tooth, and Grixis draws a Sailor of Means. The Sailor of Means isn't especially useful in this case, so we will discard that. And it may be a while before we can even cast the Raging Sword Tooth, so we will also discard that. We will untap, draw. Naya draws a Jungleborn Pioneer. Grixis draws a Fiery Cannonade. Grixis will play the Island. Naya will play a Mountain. Naya will play a Hardy Veteran, and we will give that Hardy Veteran haste, and then each of these will attack a Hydra head as well as a Nest Robber, and that will do 2 damage to 3 different Hydra heads. And then Grixis will play a Fiery Cannonade, dealing 2 damage to each non-pirate creature, which kills the Nest Robber and kills 3 Hydra heads, gaining us 6 life. apiece, taking us back up to 11. And then we'll reveal 6 cards to see if there are any new heads. There are 2 new heads, a regular Hydra head and a Ravenous Brute head. We will end the turn and give the turn back to the Hydra. The Hydra will cast the top card, which is Unified Lunge, will take X damage equal to the number of heads on the battlefield. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll also take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage for 14 damage total. That will defeat both of the Rivals of Ixalan sealed decks, ending the game and giving the win to the Hydra. That was quite brutal, and it's unfortunate that we drew some of the most powerful heads so quickly, but that is sometimes how this plays out. Let me know what you thought about the games in the comments below. If you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask there as well. If you enjoyed this video, hit like. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. Next time I'll be facing these decks up against the Battle of the Horde challenge deck from Born of the Gods. Until then, this was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.